The next speaker is Emma Stoks. She was a top-ranked student at her schools, but she was also one of those students who realized early on that the sort of best type of learning happens outside of the classroom, more often so than inside of the classroom. She, frustrated with the unequal opportunities offered to students in the sort of traditional education system, she now works to sort of change the view on learning and education as well as being an entrepreneur. Please welcome Emma.
Hi. Well, that was a moving story of Harry. A few weeks ago, I was at a primary school, and 3 6-year-olds came up to me and asked me if I could help them. They wanted to know if God had created the world, and all their attempts at finding the answer had failed. So they looked in a book that was called Everything About the Earth, but it didn't have the answer. Then they went on YouTube, searched for very old videos, but God wasn't in any of them. So I asked a couple of questions, and we ended up having a very interesting discussion about whether God is a man or a woman, a star or more or less a human, and whether God exists, even if some people may don't believe that. And I can still see their red cheeks and sparkling eyes, hungry for the answer. Unfortunately, these students get only 2 hours a week to get swept away by the curiosity, and the other hours, which aren't your own learning questions time, they have to sit still and learn what the teacher tells them to. In most countries, it varies a bit, but at the age of 6, real school starts. And from that moment on, a teacher tells you what to learn, when to learn, and when you've succeeded in learning that. And if you're lucky, you get some say in how you learn it or with whom you're in a group. But a lot of students also don't have that luck. We base the goals we set for students to meet. We base them on what we think is important in the future society. So one day, one of those goals may have been that you know how to work the land with a horse. But we know that it's not very likely young people will need that in the future, so that isn't part of the learning goals anymore. But how do we know what students need for the future? I think we don't really know. With a world that's changing faster and faster, we have no idea what young people need to be well equipped for the rest of their lives. In fact, we can't even keep up with educational content right now. I spoke to a few young people studying computer science, and they call their modern coding class history class because it's way behind on what they're seeing online. But if we can't keep up with content and we don't know what the future will hold, how do we prepare young students for the rest of their lives? I think the answer to that might be something like we want them to be independent and creative leaders. But most of all, I believe that we need to help them trust in their ability to learn, and we need to learn them how to learn. However, what we do from age 6 is take the lead, and we tell them what to learn, and when they've succeeded. So we first tell them to obey, and then we tell them to take control and lead. We make them dependent of teachers, and then we tell them to be independent. We make them follow, and then expect them to be leaders. That's really hard, isn't it? And I'm not here to say that we shouldn't set any goals regarding what students should learn. I think when we look at reading or writing, for example, we can all agree on the importance of that. What I do think is that we sometimes forget that education is just a small part of learning, and it's a beautiful place. As a society, we choose to set money aside to arrange something that already happens all the time and direct it a certain way. And I think that direction should be to enhance all the learning. If you've ever observed a baby, the obvious example would be a baby who's learning how to walk, you know that they're always learning. Once a baby knows how to set one step, the rest of the day and the rest of the few weeks will be all about learning how to set another step and more and more and more until they can walk, run, talk. When a baby keeps dropping a toy, most people think that he's trying to manipulate the parents into picking up the toy. That's actually not true. He's training, or she's training, the muscles to hold and let go of the toy. So if a baby is always learning and is learning how to be a child and then a grown-up, why do we forget that people keep doing that too? We never stop learning, we just stop paying attention to that continuous stream of learning. I myself was a straight A student, and getting high grades gave me a lot of freedom. So I was able to go to university half the week while I was still in high school. And the hours that I was supposed to be in school, I made sure that I was so busy with fundraising events and committees and clubs that I wasn't in class almost at all. And I started noticing that the less I was in the classroom, the higher my grades would be. So that's an interesting correlation, don't you think? But then I thought, well, it's fun to get an A+ instead of an A. But wouldn't it really matter if you get a C instead of a D, or a B instead of a C? Wouldn't that give you really confidence? But then I saw my peers around me, and they didn't get the chance to experience how it feels when you take control over your own learning, when you get to decide what courses you're going to take or what projects you want to learn about. Because they had to get A's first, but they didn't really fit in the education system, so they couldn't. So I saw all my friends being really good in sports, excelling in arts, or being entrepreneurs. But in school, they were underachieving or stressed out. And one day, a friend came up to me and she said, "Oh, Emma, I wish I could learn just like you, because then I could achieve what I want to achieve too." And I knew that girl wasn't any smarter. And I'm not any smarter, and I don't have any more unique talents than she did. The only difference is that my grades and my teachers had always told me from the age of 6 that I'm good at learning. So I trusted that. And I think that I owe my success in the educational system solely to the trust of others and myself in my ability to learn. But I think we owe that to every child, because that's the way we can prepare them for the future. Good grades are not proof of the fact that you are a good learner, because we already proved that we're good learners when we learned how to walk, when we learned how to talk, when we were babies. So I think we should stop focusing on the result and start focusing on the process of learning. We should stop ignoring all the learning that happens outside of the school, and we should pay more attention to what a student is eager to learn about. And we shouldn't only do this with top-ranked students. We should do this with all the students, because we can all learn, and we owe it to young people to make them believe that. So I'm very grateful for my teachers who gave me that trust, and I would love everybody in the education system to remember that it's not about the high grades, it's about the learning, and that's something we can all do. Thank you.